This is the Brian Kelly Press Conference, presented by Hancock Whitney.
Going into the year two, we understand a lot of those things necessary to be competitive and win games. Now it's how do you do it week in and week out.
As LSU hosts the Arkansas Razorbacks inside Death Valley.
Touchdown, Mighty Tigers!
Coach Kelly is coming up, but first, from inside the Capital One studio on the campus of LSU, here are your hosts, former Tiger Gordy Rush, and the voice of your Fighting Tigers, Chris Blair.
Good Monday morning, Tiger fans. Welcome in. It's another Brian Kelly Press Conference, this week brought to you by Hancock Whitney. Of course, it was a stomping in Starkville this past Saturday. LSU with the early start. No problem. Coach Brian Kelly, to paraphrase a little bit, wanted to get off to a quick start, fast start, keep the hammer down, and leave no doubt. And Gordy Rush, that's exactly what we witnessed at Davis-Wade Stadium this past Saturday as LSU en route to a 41-14 victory. So much we could talk about that game that goes in the positive column. It starts with the play of Jaden Daniels. It starts with the play of Malik Neighbors, who just moments ago, deservedly so, the Southeastern Conference announcing they are co-offensive players of the week. Their numbers dictate that must happen.
Very deserving, both of them. They were outstanding. The whole team was outstanding, especially the first half of that football game, Chris. I go back to 6 a.m. breakfast. I went to go get an omelet, and we had music, very loud music next door in the team breakfast room. So Coach Kelly did a great job of having this team ready to go for the early kickoff.
Yeah, you mentioned that because, listening to Coach Kelly a little bit on Monday last week in the opening press conference, and then he touched on it on Thursday night during his weekly radio show. I asked him, would you rather play, if you're on the road, would you rather play early so that you can get back? And he said it all comes down to having the guys ready and the guys understanding that if it's an early start, yeah, we get to celebrate a victory at home early on Saturday evening, but you got to be ready to go right out of the gate. And you mentioned it was a boisterous breakfast on Saturday morning, and then we had a little stopover and stretch. And, Coach Kelly addressed it after the game in the press conference because a lot of people were asking us when we got there, wait a minute, you guys stopped like 20 minutes outside of town? And yes, we did, and probably spent, 20 minutes with a stretch and maybe just walked through, talking things over a little bit. And Coach Kelly said, hey, look, it's an hour drive from the hotel to the stadium, and the bus was leaving at 7:15, 7:30. I didn't want our guys, as you might tend to do, take a little nap on the way to Davis-Wade. So that way they got the blood pumping, they got some energy, and then they were ready to go from the word jump on Saturday just after 11 o'clock.
Something Coach Kelly has used since the end of the Florida State game, he has said playing the game the right way. Playing physical, playing nasty, and LSU played with an edge, and it was really nice to see, Chris, especially on the offensive line. Offensive linemen getting after Mississippi State. They were a little chippy out there, but it set the tone for a dominant performance.
Yeah, you said it. I think one of the penalties after the fact whistled against LSU in that game, and you said, hey, you don't want to see penalties, and you don't want it to cost you. At that point, though, LSU did have the game in hand, and you said, to have a little bit of that attitude, a little bit of swagger, if you play a little bit beyond the whistle or maybe get a little chippy, as you said, you like to see that. And I tell you, this LSU defense, and I wanted to start with Jaden Daniels and Malik Neighbors because they were just incredible, and that's why they're co-offensive players of the week. 30 of 34 completions, which is incredible, 361 yards, 2 passing touchdowns. Jaden also led the team in rushing with 64 yards, also had 2 rushing scores. Malik Neighbors, a career high. Just incredible job. 13 catches, 239 yards, 2 touchdowns. And it really felt like he had more than 2 touchdowns in the game because Mississippi State had absolutely no answer to put somebody on Malik Neighbors. But I want to switch quickly to the defense because just before we went underway here, you and I were discussing the fact that Coach Kelly talks about getting off the field in time. I think they were 1 of 11 on third down. They were 0 for 8 when the game was really being battled.
Right.
So the defense was getting Mississippi State off the field, and there were 2 plays over 20 yards for Mississippi State. Marks had the big 52-yard run that set up that score late in the second quarter, and then they had a pass play to Xavier Thomas that went for 22 yards. But only 4 yards per play, and they didn't have a bunch of plays to begin with.
Absolutely. Look, I think what LSU did well is that defensively they took away the bread and butter of what Mississippi State wanted to do. They wanted to be physical and run the football like they did against Arizona. And LSU's defense did a great job of shutting down the Mississippi State running game. And then when it was time to pass, they got after Will Rogers. It was a long afternoon for Will Rogers. He was on the run. He was not accurate. He was on his butt half the time. Just a fantastic performance.
You said early on the radio broadcast that even though they hadn't got home yet, LSU would eventually get 4 sacks, but they were certainly disrupting the rhythm of Will Rogers, who you and I have both seen. You know, that's one of the things that made him effective in the air raid was, A, he's got a ton of options to throw to on every snap, and B, he got rid of the football quick. He didn't look comfortable from the start because even when he was given time and even when the play was starting to develop in their favor, you were seeing uncharacteristic throws at the shoe strings, top of the shoes by Will Rogers. It just, again, it wasn't a great day for him. His percentage was right around 30%. But a lot of that has to go to LSU.
Absolutely. A lot with LSU. And look, it's a tough situation, Mississippi State, with Coach Leach passing. They decided to keep it in-house. They wanted to have a transition offensively, and I think folks don't realize just what a big transition that is to go from the air raid, not only for the quarterback, the receivers, the offensive line as well. Offensive line, that ball's coming out quick. There's more zone schemes. It's not quite the physical dominating scheme I think they're asking for folks to do. There's not as much pulling in that air raid, so it's a different look, and you could tell Mississippi State very much in the transition of that, and they struggled offensively against LSU.
And again, the energy that LSU played with and really just imposing their will from start to finish. And defensively, you come into that game and you realize Omar Spates is not going to be there at linebacker. You realize that Greg Brooks is unavailable. Suddenly, again, we're all learning where Harold Perkins best fits.
Right.
But you do need somebody in the middle. If you're not going to put him inside, you need somebody, obviously. And what a game by Whit Weeks, the freshman out of Watkinsville, Georgia, younger brother of Wes Weeks, led the team, 8 tackles, several solo, had quarterback hurries. He was impressive, along with the rest of the defense. I thought the secondary played well.
Yes.
But the linebackers in that front 7 overall, Mekhi Wingo, Mason Smith, I mean, those guys played incredible.
Some of the plays that Weeks made, there was a key blitz in which he came late, and his running back block that he was watching, he came in there late and popped Rogers and caused a hurry on the ball. The ball was incomplete. And then there was another running play, which he did just a fundamentally sound job of working inside out, staying behind the football, filling that gap responsibility and making a clean tackle. You don't see too many true freshmen look like that come into the SEC and play football. He was impressive.
You know, I have said this many times. It is very impressive to be around Coach Kelly, his entire staff, the entire organization, because everything is accounted for. And one of the things, as we kind of put to bed the Mississippi State game, that he has said after 1 year going on the road in the SEC in these tough venues, if you play well. I think he had a theory going in, but I think it's solidified. It's a fact now, and he lets his team understand. If you go in and play well, those tough atmospheres go away.
Yes.
And without question, I mean, the cowbells were rocking. I couldn't hear you. You probably couldn't hear me prior to kickoff. And before halftime, that place started emptying.
The combination of LSU playing well and that game not being at night. You get that place hopping a little bit like every other SEC venue at night. It's one of the tougher places to play. Chris, it's the only place where I have both earplugs in because it's that loud. They were ready, and State, they've done a wonderful job with that facility and the stadium and the fan base. The Bulldogs just didn't give them anything to cheer about.
No doubt about it. Like some of those heavyweight fights, you take that first punch early, you never recover, and that's kind of what LSU did to Mississippi State on Saturday. They pick up the win 41-14, and LSU now 2-1 on the season. More importantly, 1-0 early on in the SEC. They got another Southeastern Conference game coming up Saturday. Back at home, this time under the lights, a Saturday night in Death Valley. It's going to be Arkansas. We're going to talk about that in the next 10 minutes. We'll take a break here. Don't forget, coming up at high noon, we'll have Coach Brian Kelly address the media and set the tone for this week's action as LSU hosts Arkansas later the week. We'll continue right after this, the Brian Kelly press conference presented by Hancock Whitney.
Swing into Golf Suites, your #1 destination for golf, food, and fun. Whether you are looking to enhance your game using state-of-the-art TrackMan technology or simply want to relax and enjoy an ice-cold beverage and delicious meal on our 6,000 square foot deck at Golf Suites, we guarantee a good time and even better company. And there's more. Whether it's a corporate outing, a birthday bash, or any group event, Golf Suites is your go-to venue for both small and large gatherings. Golf Suites. It's time to find your sweet spot.
Albertsons is making shopping and saving easier than ever. Check out Albertsons For You in our mobile app, where you can shop for groceries and save weekly with digital coupons all in one place. With Albertsons For You, you can earn rewards points every time you shop and redeem them for free groceries. Brand new Albertsons For You members receive $5 off their next $25 purchase just for signing up. Download the Albertsons app or go to albertsons.com to sign up. Albertsons, fresh food, local flavors.
If SEC football runs deep in your veins, then Sirius XM SEC Radio is what you need to listen to. We're talking conference and team previews, plus hear live games, news, and analysis from experts like Chris Doering, Aaron Murray, and Max Starks. Go in-depth with your favorite team with coaches shows, championship specials, and more. Get inside SEC football like nowhere else. Feed your fandom on the Sirius XM app. Stay up to date anywhere you go. Just download the app and start streaming.
Tiger fans, this is Eddie Kennison, former LSU football wide receiver. If you know me, you know I'm all about making big plays.
Tigers win! Tigers win!
That's why I joined the team at LSU Sports Properties. Our goal here is to help businesses make big plays both on and off the field. If you want to give your brand that competitive edge and be a part of the biggest stage in college sports, give the corporate sponsorship team at LSU Athletics a call. Your brand, our fans. Utilize the power of LSU Athletics to promote your business and sponsor LSU Athletics today. Call 225-578-2788. Go Tigers.
Coach Kelly is just moments away from previewing the week for the Fighting Tigers. This is the Brian Kelly Press Conference, presented by Hancock Whitney. Once again, here are Gordy and Chris.
Well, it's the Battle of the Boot coming up in Baton Rouge this Saturday, 6 p.m. or thereabouts. It'll be kickoff between Arkansas and LSU. Coming up, we'll go to the Lawton Room next to Tiger Stadium as Coach Brian Kelly, as always, will kind of set the tone with an opening statement, then take questions from the assembled media. Arkansas coming in, a couple of things stand out to me, Gordy. Number one, this is going to be their first road trip for the Razorbacks this season. They hosted Western Carolina in Little Rock to open up the season, winning that one easily 56-13. Then Kent State came to Fayetteville 28-6. Wasn't the prettiest of games against the Flashes. And then this past Saturday night in Fayetteville, it was BYU and Arkansas, and it looked like it was going to come down. I mean, it was a shootout. Both teams were scoring. Both teams were making plays. KJ Jefferson carrying the Razorbacks. Who would blink and who would maybe blink most? And as it turned out, it was Arkansas. 2 costly turnovers in the second half. Went into the fourth quarter, tie ball game, 31-all. And in 15 minutes of action in that fourth quarter, only BYU could find the end zone.
I tell you, Arkansas, they were their own worst enemy. 14 penalties on the night. The 2 turnovers, as you mentioned, both of them costly. Arkansas owned the time of possession by 10 minutes in this football game. They led by 10 at the half, had 120 yards more in total offense, and lost this game 38-31. In fact, BYU had 38 points on just 280 yards, I believe, of total offense, and just a game statistically that Arkansas dominated, but the too many mistakes.
I know they were without Rocket Sanders, which is a big loss to them offensively. I know you've heard that the rumor mill is, maybe we'll find out later in the week, that he would be ready in return for the game on Saturday. But we all know KJ Jefferson is the showpiece of this offense. And again, he was doing a little bit of everything, as you would expect, especially in the first 2 quarters, a little bit of the third quarter, running the ball when need be. Maybe I was a little surprised they didn't run him more against BYU, especially the fact that the BYU front four were getting pressure on Jefferson. And one of those turnovers resulted after a fumble. Actually, they knocked the ball free on 2 occasions. Arkansas got it back once, but it was a 4-man rush getting to the Arkansas quarterback.
A lot of criticism out there, at least from the Arkansas fans, on that Arkansas. One, the offensive line. They've got some folks injured. They've had to move some people around. They struggled with BYU's front. I believe there was 5 penalties in the last drive on the offensive line. They were trying to go down and tie that football game. And then you toss in the Dan Enos came down from Maryland to replace Kendall Briles that had been the offensive coordinator with Jefferson all those years. So you got a transition going on. They're not running quite the tempo that they ran under Briles. So all of it's new. And we talked a little bit of Mississippi State going through a transition. This one's not as big as what they're trying to do at State, but certainly Arkansas offense made too many mistakes to win that football game.
As you said, Arkansas statistically, outside of the 14 penalties, and as I said, I think the 2 costly turnovers, BYU would cough it up on one occasion. But there were some success for BYU throwing the football, going at the secondary for Arkansas in that game.
Yeah, Arkansas a year ago was dead last in points given up in the SEC, and this was before Barry Odom moved on to UNLV to be the head coach at UNLV. So this is a defense that had a lot of question marks going into the season. Travis Williams was the defensive coordinator with Gus Malzahn over at Central Florida. He has come up to Arkansas, promised more of an attacking, blitzing type of play. And then Drew Sanders and Bumper Poole, they're 2-star middle linebackers, they moved on. They're not there any longer. So a lot of new faces. And so this Arkansas defense, look, I think under the circumstances, played well. I mean, to keep BYU under 300 points, I know 38 points doesn't sound that well. They didn't keep them out of the end zone, but they played well enough to win this football game.
Yeah, you mentioned that there is some concern about how you utilize KJ Jefferson in this new offensive scheme with Dan Enos obviously coming in for Kendall Briles. You look at it, 24 of 35. He obviously was throwing the football quite a bit, had the 1 interception. Running the football, I guess, is where it is most surprising.
Right.
13 carries, 21 net yards when you factor in the 4 sacks BYU was able to get. When you look at some of the big games Arkansas has won with KJ Jefferson at the helm, the highlight reel is him running the football and carrying smaller defensive backs.
Absolutely.
Down the field.
And that's what makes them so difficult to defend is you've got to account for Jefferson in the run game. Last year, you recall, he didn't play against LSU.
Right.
We saw him 2 years ago here in Tiger Stadium. So you got to imagine that Coach House is going to have some plays ready for Harold Perkins Jr., once again, spy on Jefferson. We saw him do such a good job with Richardson and some other athletic quarterbacks last year. That's got to be in the game plan this week.
Every week is going to be its own challenge, and I know it's easy for us, Gordy, to look back and say, okay, what the issues were in the opening game against Florida State, which, again, I hate to have to put this asterisk around it, but Florida State, I know they struggled a little bit against Boston College and had every reason to lose that game Saturday, but they're a good team.
Good team.
But the things that LSU could control that they did not do very well in week number 1, they certainly cleaned it up against Grambling. We had no idea how that would translate to the game against Mississippi State. Again, all the things that you didn't have, just all the way down to just the fire, the passion, the energy, all of that was there on the road at 11 a.m. Now you come in, I don't think you got to manufacture energy coming up on Saturday.
No. Look, the execution was sharp. You talk about 30 of 34 out of Jaden Daniels. I thought he took what the Mississippi State defense gave him, did an excellent job putting LSU in the right play, and what we talked about from jump. The difference for me in this football game, and they didn't necessarily need it against Grambling, but they needed it on the road at Mississippi State, is they came out, they were physical, they played nasty, and they got after him.
Well, as we said, Whit Weeks played a phenomenal game, and his future is certainly bright, not only down the road, but right here in the foreseeable future. Well, hopefully we'll get an update. I'm sure somebody's going to ask Coach Kelly about Omar Spates, obviously Greg Brooks, because, again, it's great to build that depth with a true freshman in Whit Weeks, but you want to have some overall depth as we continue going through this conference schedule.
Yeah, look, I think one of the big pluses of this LSU defense and the way that they played last year, you recall, across the line, it was Ollie Gay, it was Jay Roy, it was Wingo, and it was Ojulari, and it was them for 85 to 90% of the snaps. And you need bodies to get through the SEC schedule. And LSU's playing at least 10 people in that front 6 when they get into just a 4-man base and those 2 linebackers. And to have that many people play and play well is a huge plus.
I mentioned that it's the battle of the boot. I think most LSU fans would agree, at least that's the ones that have told me, that maybe that means more to Arkansas and its fan base than LSU as far as this overall rivalry. But the boot has spent a lot of time here in Baton Rouge. It is currently in Baton Rouge, so I know there's a little piece of that wants to keep it right here where it belongs.
Not only that, I don't believe we play Arkansas next year, and who knows what the future schedule is going to look like. So
keep it here for a couple of years.
You might have the boot for a while, and that's good because carrying the boot around is very hard to do. It takes several people to carry that boot on and off the field.
All right, it'll be a 6 o'clock start, Arkansas and LSU. Let's go to the head Tiger. Here's Coach Brian Kelly.
My notes here organized. All right, good afternoon. We'll begin with a recap from this past weekend. Going on the road, playing an 11 a.m. game requires, for our team to think the right way. I thought they did a great job of thinking right about the trip itself. It's easy to think about how difficult and how early, and instead they thought about it as great opportunity to be the first game up, to go on the road and play 4 quarters with the competitive edge that they've been looking for in terms of playing for 4 quarters. There's always that sense of playing early and getting back home. So I thought they did a great job of, thinking the right way. And then, you have to flip that switch from preparation to performance. And to do that, you've got to play with a sense of urgency and you've got to have the emotional control, but play with an edge. And they got off to a fast start, played with great effort and enthusiasm. There was really an attention to the details out there and, finished strong. So that's what we're looking for from our football team. That's an identity that we want to create each and every week. And certainly one that we believe that we can be. Now it's about building on that and looking for that consistency. There were obviously some great performances, as highlighted by Jaden Daniels and Malik Neighbors being named the SEC Co-Offensive Players of the Week. The play of the two of them, was certainly elite. Daniels, 425 yards of total offense. The numbers. But I think if you really look at it closely, some of the things that maybe don't get the attention was his presence in the pocket and how many times he got hit after delivering, a great throw. Sometimes we cut it off and see the ball in the air, but you don't see the play all the way through. And made some great throws under duress. Those are NFL throws. Some of the ones that he made, not backing down, staying in the pocket, knowing that he was going to get hit and still delivering the ball with great accuracy. And Neighbors, obviously, his ability to handle any coverage variations. And look, the things that sometimes don't get talked about. He maintains space on the field. He carves out an opportunity to catch the ball. Many times we see defenders squeeze out offensive players. Malik is strong and physical as well, and he can hold his line and give the quarterback an opportunity. So hats off to both of those guys. Great work, and look to do the same. I don't know that there's any reason why they can't continue to play at that level. Obviously, defensively holding Mississippi State to 7 total yards on their first 3 possessions. I thought defensively coming together, allowing just under 100 yards rushing in the SEC in terms of anything that you do is a job well done. Third down, we were really efficient. We got off the field. And again, harassed the quarterback. Got the quarterback down, had sacks, did the things that you need to do in the SEC. You've got to play that kind of defense. So all in all, a great performance on the road, and now something that we need to certainly build on moving forward. Get a chance now to play another SEC opponent in Arkansas. I think we all know about this game. It is a hard-fought, physical game. each and every year. I think the last 3 years have been decided by a total of something like 9 points, I think. It's a rivalry trophy, battle for the boot, annual trophy between the two schools that started back in the mid-'90s. So I know our guys understand who they're playing and the tough games that we've had with them, including last year. So they'll be prepared for that. Now it's about preparing the right way again this week and then, playing with that competitive edge. So looking forward to that. They've got some really good players. Sam Pittman does a great job. I have a ton of respect for Sam, and he'll have his team ready to play. Bouncing back after last week's loss, he'll have his team ready to go, and we'll have to respond in kind. KJ Jefferson, the quarterback, 3-year starter. I think we all know about his size and strength. He can run the football. Raheem Sanders, A.J. Green, 2 outstanding backs, Armstrong. And the defense, although a new defensive coordinator, outstanding coordinator coming from UCF. He's had great success, great pedigree in the SEC, was with Kevin Steele at Auburn. So we know we've got our hands full. So certainly looking forward to being in Tiger Stadium this Saturday. We're going to take advantage of being there because we won't be back for a little bit. So we'll talk about that and make sure our guys relish the opportunity of playing at home. We had a couple of guys that did not play. I'll talk about them briefly. First of all, Omar Spates had that, what we felt like was a lower body injury. I would list him now as probable. Ovia Gufu, the same thing, lower body injury. I'd list him as probable. Same thing with Mason Taylor. All of those will be probable. Greg Brooks is out. I don't have a lot that I can report on Greg. It is a family matter, so I am not going to speak on the family's behalf. If there's anything that I can get to you further after I speak with the family, we'll certainly give you information. But Greg is dealing with a medical emergency, and he will not be available. So with that, we'll open it up to questions.
Coach, is it right up here, just to your left? Is it Greg's medical emergency? Or
Yes.
Okay.
Greg has a medical emergency.
Just the defense that you rolled out there, had one of the best showings of the year. Obviously, it had a lot of new faces. Was that the best 11 that you could put out there, or was it the best 11 at the time? Did you feel really good about it in retrospect?
Yeah, we did. I mean, we had a lot of confidence that Braden Swinson would be able to go in there and play at a high level. He had during the year. Whit Weeks, we knew what we had. We had a young player, certainly a true freshman, but he can run all over the field. He's extremely athletic. I think you get a little concerned when you play a lot of true freshmen. Certainly in the back end of your defense. Ryan Yates came in and played really well. He was clean. He was disciplined in his alignments. He was assignment correct. But, you got 3 true freshmen on the field. On the road in the SEC, I don't think you're running around going, oh, this is great. But we had confidence in them that they could go out and play well. I think what it shows more than anything else, and Coach and I were talking about this, Coach House, is that we have more than 11, and we need to play them more. It's kind of like what we talked about the week before with Guillory and certainly Jefferson at the tackle position. They didn't play enough the week before, where they played much more, and you can see how that helps our rotation at the defensive line. I think you'll see now that we can play a lot more at the linebacker position and the safety position.
With that, Coach, right over here, you mentioned Spates being probable for this week. How, in your experience, have you handled having a young guy like Weeks with Spates having so much experience and just handling kind of that role going forward with those guys and having, obviously, playable depth?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think the guy that's really settled this for us in terms of, whoever he's been with has been Greg Penn. Greg's been outstanding. He's a settling factor out there for us. He gets guys lined up. He communicates very well. And that's a guy that we want to keep on the field. So, we'll be moving guys around to complement that. And I think, the best rotation keeps Greg on the field, and then we'll move guys in and out with him.
In the middle here, Coach. Do you ever think about over the last year and a half where you would be without Jaden Daniels?
Yeah, he's been outstanding. Obviously, we've won a lot of football games, and certainly his ability to win the game with his feet, or in this instance, throwing the football and running the ball. He was as good as anybody in the country, and we've seen a development now that we were in week 3. I think if you look at week 3 last year, and was it the week we threw for 85 yards? I think it was, and now he's throwing for 30 for 34. So we've seen incredible development at the position, and I think that's what's more exciting than where would we be without Daniels. Is it's fun to watch the development of a quarterback in that respect.
Matthew Bruin on 3. Mason Smith now through 2 games. Just how have you seen him continue to get comfortable, and where do you think he's at?
Yeah, I think he's getting there. I mean, we saw some things that he wasn't doing against Grambling that now he's starting to impact the game a little bit more, and I think that'll continue to grow as he continues to play himself in a position where he can play at a high level each and every snap. So, he's physically a presence in there, and we expect him to continue as the season progresses. He's going to be an impact player for us. So feel good about where he's gone over the last couple of weeks, and expect to see more of him as we move forward.
Yeah, Brian, in the middle, sorry. Yeah. You've gone for it 8 times on 4th down so far this year. It would have been 9 with the first drive on Saturday.
Right.
Does that have anything to do with the clock changes? Have you philosophically changed at all just when you decide to be aggressive and when not to?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've talked about this a little bit before. I think I use a combination of good sense in terms of what the game feels like. We use analytics, so I'm plugged into what the analytics are telling me relative to 4th down. And as you know, most of the analytics are much more aggressive than we are as we watch the game, right? 4th and 2 or 3 used to be considering a field goal inside the 10. Now it's almost 100% go for it. So I think it's a combination of getting a sense and feel for the game and how you feel like you might have control or not control of the game, plus the use of analytics. And then when you have a quarterback that is multidimensional, it really puts a defense in a bind. So I think we have those 3 factors working for us when we get to 4th down calls.
Hey, Coach, right down here. It's 2 years now in a row where you guys have played freshmen early in their careers, and they've largely responded. I'm wondering, just as a whole, though, how does that affect you guys on the recruiting trail? I mean, just over the last couple of weeks, I know you can't go into specifics with this, but just the conversations and stuff that you're talking to with these recruits about just you come here and you develop and you can see the field early and play often with us.
Yeah, look, everybody, I think, is, in this recruiting cycle, we're recruiting young men that believe and have confidence in themselves that they can play right away. And certainly there are other factors that they consider now in making decisions on where to go, looking at the depth chart and looking at, can this help my, NIL? I mean, there are other factors now involved in that. So what we can tell them, and this is what I tell them all the time, I'm not afraid to play freshmen, but I'm going to play the best players. And if that is a freshman, I'm playing a freshman. If that's a graduate transfer, I'll play a graduate transfer. And I think our track record shows that the best players are going to play. And if you're a freshman and you can handle it mentally and physically, we'll put you on the field.
Brian, speaking of freshmen, of all the great plays you guys had Saturday, the one that got the most attention in replay was Caleb Jackson running over the safety right in front of your bench. I was kind of curious what went through your mind when that play happened. And we see media fans, we see
player who's making great individual plays. Do you see the same thing, or you see someone who's still developing and still has a lot to learn, or where are you with him and what he can contribute to the team?
Yeah, I mean, the obvious answer is physicality, explosiveness, but a young man that is still learning how to play this game. Remember now, if you look back on his high school career, he was not a 4-year player even in high school. So, he's learning how to play the game every time he steps on the field. And he's terrific to coach. I mean, the great part about it is he doesn't have much baggage. He's learning a lot about the game as we go along. We're talking to him about some of the rules as it relates to kickoff. If the impetus of the ball goes into the end zone and it hits you, you don't have to take it out. These are foreign things to him. So, just teaching him the game and him learning the game is kind of where we're at with him. But it's easy to see the raw physical ability, but there's so much more to that, and that's if you, and I know you did, you watched the game closely, you saw what Diggs and Williams were able to do in third down protections against a very difficult scheme. Caleb's not ready for that. He will get ready for that, but he's just not there yet.
Coach Savion Jones seemed to really impact the game early, pressure on the first drive, sack on the second drive. What are you seeing out of him?
Just moving better. Here's a bigger guy that is starting to come into his size. He put on a lot of weight in the offseason. Good weight, but he's now having to play more football than he's ever played. He's starting to get a sense of how to train and put himself in a position to handle himself with this new role that he has. And I think he's only going to continue to get better. We saw that suddenness. We saw that reaction that we weren't getting earlier in the year. The game's starting to get easier for him again, and I just think he's going to continue to get better.
Over here, yep. Brett Martell with AP. Do you have examples from throughout your coaching career of teams that maybe didn't do as well as expected right out of the gate, but turned out to be quite formidable, that have been instructive to you as you kind of try to figure out what are the remedies for not starting the way you want in the season?
Yeah, I mean, I could probably, give you a number in 32 years of doing this. The specifics I'd have to take some time to think about. But I think that unless your team is ready-made, and I made it pretty clear with 14 transfers and the amount of freshmen that we were going to have to play, that's a red flag. I mean, if you're really looking at it carefully, that's going to require some tweaking. That's going to require for you to really understand that there's going to have to be some movement in terms of changing direction, with your team along the way. We were able to do that, I think, and I think we're finding the formula for this team. But I think that, most teams that I've had, there haven't been as many that are just add water and just go. They all require a little bit of, changing the formula as the season goes along to get the right mix.
Competitive edge was a phrase that was used a lot after week one. This was the first game that I think I saw LSU push first instead of get pushed. How much of that was a point of emphasis, that toughness, I guess, out of your team and kind of taking it to the other team early?
Yeah, I mean, I think clearly, we're looking for gentlemen off the field, but not gentlemen on the field. And I would say that, going back to what's the right mix, I want tough guys on the field that play the game the right way. I don't want to be, a team that's penalized and we hurt our team, but we want guys that have a toughness to them. And then off the field, we want gentlemen. We might have played like gentlemen both on the field and off the field, and that's not who we are. And I think we're trying to find that identity. I think we're getting closer to it.
KJ Jefferson is a guy that's obviously been starting for years for Arkansas. Just your evaluation of him and if you've noticed anything different with his development this year.
Well, I think it's like any other quarterback, right? I mean, when you get into the final year and where you feel like this is your year, you want to do well, and I think he certainly feels like this is his year to showcase himself. So, I thought maybe if you look at the last quarters, he's trying to make plays, but he's got a lot of new players around him as well, So it's not all about him, I mean, he's got some young players that have to develop or new players that have to develop around him. But he's still the big, physical, athletic quarterback that scares you. He's hard to bring down. He's got a live arm, and we're going to be prepared for him to play his best against us.
Hey, Coach, over here. Just building off of that, you talked about playing against some mobile quarterbacks early in the season, and y'all played against Will Rogers, had a lot of success, maybe not as mobile as the other quarterbacks y'all played against, but what are some things that can take away that can translate to the success y'all had on Saturday against Will Rogers, against another mobile quarterback?
Well, I think fundamentally, a lot of the things that we talk about are, keeping the ball in, leverage the defense, keeping the ball inside the pocket, making quarterbacks earn it instead of, giving up, easy, rush lanes, all those things that are the fundamentals of playing good defense. We weren't on point early on. We were much better on Saturday. When we leveraged the ball, when we held the point, when we did our job, we made it very difficult for Mississippi State. We're going to look to do the same.
Coach, what are the pros and cons offensively on 3rd and short, 4th and short, running out of the shotgun as opposed to getting under center and then handing it to a guy? And what do you debate there?
It's really about, where are the reps taken the most? Like, what do you do the most in your offensive structure? If you're a team that runs shotgun like we do 99% of the time, do you carve out, how much time do you carve out for a direct snap offense? Because you have to carve out time for that. And then you have to be able to put in that time within your practice structure to work on your direct snap. With direct snap, you have to think about direct snap quick game, play action pass, all the things that go along with that, 5-step, 7-step drop. So, we have all that. It's just, is it from what we do with a quarterback that can run option, is that best suit a Jaden Daniels? That might suit another quarterback that we have to run a little bit more direct snap. But with a guy like Jaden Daniels, it suits us better to be in the shotgun.
Yeah, Brian, right here, 2 questions. First, Harold Jackson, did he seem like he was back in his comfort zone Saturday? And the second one is, what did Mississippi State do to take Will out of his, I guess, he usually plays pretty consistent, but he had a rough game on the offensive line.
So I think with Perk, I think just playing with that energy, playing with that edge, he's got to learn where that balancing act is, right? We don't want to get him in a position where he's taking a swing at somebody, he's out of the game, but he's got to play with energy. He's got to play with emotion. That's how he plays the game the best, and I thought he brought that. I thought he brought that competitive edge, and that's going to put him in a position to get to the quarterback and set the edge and run people down, and you just got to play. He's just got to play that way, and I think he was tweaking it and trying to find that. Early on, he was playing inside. He was thinking a lot. He was slowing down. I think he's coming back to finding what that balance is. Look, the first penalty on the goal line, that was on our center. The center did not snap the ball on the clap. Will gets called for a procedure penalty. The holding, we know all about holding, right? It is debatable on the call. The only one that I had a conversation with him is the retaliatory action with the helmet. And I said, look, you wear 7 and you're a captain. You got to make better decisions. But that's the first time I've ever talked to him about making a bad decision going into his sophomore year. So I think we're on the plus side when it comes to that with Will Campbell.
Just real quick, do you know when Greg might be back again?
Do not. Do not.
And then what was it kind of about Whit Weeks that y'all liked and trusted in him to be able to make a start in an SEC game for the first time?
First of all, he has elite speed at the position. He can cover the field. He can run mistakes down. And when you can run mistakes down, that gives you a real advantage in terms of playing the position. The second thing is he sees an open gap, he's going to take it. You saw that early in the game. He shot the gap, TFL. He's got, obviously there's a learning curve there. There are some things that he did that, we're going to have to continue to work with. But when you have a guy that's that athletic, has a really good sense of pass coverage. He's not lost out there in pass coverage. And I would say that probably is the reason why he's out there, because he's not lost in anything. Can he get better in areas? Absolutely. And then he makes up for a lot of that with high-end athletic ability.
Mississippi State was in the back. Mississippi State was the first of 5 SEC games for the team. How do we see that this weekend's performance is reciprocated in the next couple weeks? And then how have you seen the team's adjustment to the no stop clock rule on first downs?
Yeah, I mean, that's the challenge, right? I mean, we're going to play 4 more SEC opponents. We need all hands on deck. We've got to be able to play with the same kind of competitive edge, the same kind of preparation. This is the grind of it now, right? This is where you get into your process and making sure that everybody has an understanding of doing the little things the right way every single day. We're off and running now. This is the good stuff for coaches. Players, maybe not so much. They want to get to Saturday, but we got to keep them focused on every single day. The clock rule really has no effect on what we do and how we operate. It's stopped before the half and it's stopped at the end of the game. So if it didn't get stopped there, maybe there'd be some alterations and changes that you would make. But because it's stopped in those critical possessions, it really hasn't affected us at all. Thank you.
Well, let's recap. LSU, no problem with Mississippi State, 41-14. Jaden Daniels and Malik Neighbors, SEC co-offensive players of the week, announced earlier today. And Coach Brian Kelly said overall just a solid performance, and now the Tigers try to build on that as they put it in the rear view and get ready for Arkansas coming into Tiger Stadium this coming Saturday with kickoff at 6 o'clock. We did find out after Coach Kelly made it to the podium that LSU and Ole Miss in Oxford, that one's going to kick off at 5 o'clock coming up a week from this Saturday. We'll be back to wrap up this week's Brian Kelly press conference presented by Hancock Whitney right after this.
It's time to score big with healthcare decisions this enrollment period.
With a Medicare Advantage plan from People's Health, you get more benefits than original Medicare.
Like $0 copays for primary care and virtual doctor visits.
Part D prescription drug coverage.
Vision and dental services. And an allowance for OTC items.
Call People's Health to learn more. 1-855-633-4207. Plans are insured through United Healthcare Insurance Company or one of its affiliated companies. A Medicare Advantage organization with a Medicare contract. Enrollment in the plan depends on the plan's contract renewal.
NIL is dominating the college sports scene, and LSU has positioned itself at the front of the pack. But to remain competitive and stay ahead of the rest, we need your support. Bayou Traditions is the official NIL collective of LSU Athletics. Join the tradition and become a member by signing up online at BayouTraditionsCollective.com. Members receive exclusive access to LSU student athletes that you can't get anywhere else. Help ensure LSU remains a leader in the NIL arena. Sign up today at BayouTraditionsCollective.com.
Unrivaled content, unprecedented access. LSU Gold, powered by Bayou Traditions, is the only place for exclusive behind-the-scenes content featuring your favorite LSU teams. It's all access to the Tigers, all year long, from pregame warm-ups to postgame celebrations and every moment in between. You can watch LSU Gold anywhere, anytime, and on your favorite device. Go to lsu.gold today to sign up for your free 7-day trial, so you can be there for each step of LSU's championship journeys. That's lsu.gold.
If SEC football runs deep in your veins, then Sirius XM SEC Radio is what you need to listen to. We're talking conference and team previews, plus hear live games, news, and analysis from experts like Chris Doering, Aaron Murray, and Max Starks. Go in-depth with your favorite team with coaches shows, championship specials, and more. Get inside SEC football like nowhere else. Feed your fandom on the Sirius XM app. Stay up to date anywhere you go. Just download the app and start streaming.
This is the Brian Kelly Press Conference, presented by Hancock Whitney.
Wraps up another press conference as LSU prepares to take on Arkansas this coming Saturday. Kickoff just after 6 o'clock Saturday night in Death Valley for this year's Battle of the Boot. Coming up on Thursday, it's the Brian Kelly Show live from TJ Ribs. All gets started at 7 o'clock. Come out and join us for dinner, listen to Coach, or join us from wherever you are. Again, with the LSU Sports Radio Network and the LSU Sports mobile app presented by BASF. Coming up on Saturday, we'll kick things off over at Tiger One. Brandon Taylor, Marlon Favorite, Hunt Palmer will start our day at 4 o'clock, leading up to the 6 o'clock start. And Doug Morrow, Gordy Rush will join me inside legendary Tiger Stadium for another meeting of Arkansas and LSU. Thank you for stopping by once again this week. Hope you'll join us again next Monday at the same time. Thanks to Gordy Rush for sitting in. And we'll see you on Saturday night in Death Valley. This has been the Brian Kelly Press Conference presented by Hancock Whitney.
This has been the Brian Kelly Press Conference, presented by Hancock Whitney.